It feels like our financial system is at a breaking point, doesn't it? But what if that break isn't just some random collapse? What if it's actually an intentional reset? The sources we're diving in today suggest we might be seeing something more than a crisis, maybe a carefully planned system overhaul. So, let's take a look at the argument.
To really get what's going on, you have to start with this quote from economist Gary Stevenson. He's talking about a massive, seismic transfer of wealth that he says absolutely did not happen by accident. And this shift, well, it's like the first domino to fall, setting the stage for everything else.
All right, so first up, we need to understand the underlying conditions that make the whole system so fragile. One of our sources uses this great metaphor. They call the current economy a tinderbox. It's a system of inequality so extreme that it's basically just waiting for a spark. So the core idea here is that for decades, this huge gap has been getting wider and wider. And we're not just talking about paychecks, we're talking about owning the things that actually build wealth, like a home. Older generations who got in early have seen their wealth just explode, while younger folks are finding it almost impossible to even get a foot in the door. It's like two completely different economic worlds existing at the same time.
Now, this is where it gets absolutely wild. Just look at this chart. It shows how this trend went into overdrive during the pandemic. While the entire U.S. economy grew by just a few percentage points in that first year, American billionaires reportedly saw their wealth more than double. That's not just a good year. According to our source, it was a wealth transfer unlike anything we've ever seen before.
And here's what that actually means for people in the real world. All that new wealth doesn't just sit in a bank account. It goes out and buys up assets. So if you're wondering why a house feels so out of reach, it's not just about simple inflation. It's because the competition has totally changed. You're now bidding for the exact same house against a group of people who are literally trillions of dollars richer than they were just a short time ago.
Okay, so we've got the tinderbox, this extreme inequality. Now let's talk about the spark that could set the whole thing off. Our sources walk us through a speculative scenario where the one institution at the very heart of the system, the central bank, suddenly faces a complete and total crisis of trust.
Just picture this. It all goes down over a single weekend. On Friday, boom, the Department of Justice serves the Federal Reserve with criminal subpoenas. By Sunday night, the Fed shares on TV, but they're not talking about finances. They're accusing the government of a political hit job, basically saying this is all just to intimidate the central bank.
And that's the moment the alarm bells start ringing all around the world. According to one source, every single living former Fed chair, we're talking people from both political parties, they get together and release a joint statement. And they do not mince words. They use language you'd expect to hear about a struggling, unstable country, but they're using it to describe the United States.
And it's really important to get this straight. The story here isn't about whether someone committed a crime or not. It's about the collapse of a core belief, the idea that the central bank is independent and stays out of politics. The second that trust disappears, the whole system starts to shake.
So trust is gone. What happens next? Well, we move from that crisis of confidence to an all-out firestorm in the markets. This is where the theory gets very, very real for everybody's money.
And the market's reaction is, well, it's instant and it's chaotic. You see this massive flight to safety, but it's a weird one. Money pours into hard assets, physical things like gold and silver, sending their prices through the roof. And at the exact same time, people are pulling their money out of the very institutions that are supposed to be the safest, the big banks.
But right in the middle of all this panic, people who are trying to buy silver start noticing something strange. The price they're being quoted at their local coin shop is way, way higher than the official spot price they're seeing on the news. So what in the world is going on here?
And here you can see that disconnect, plain as day. The paper price, the one on the news, is completely detached from the price of physical silver you can actually go out and buy. And this isn't just a small dealer markup. It's a huge red flag that the market for real stuff is breaking away from the market for financial promises.
This thing actually has a name. The sources we're looking at call it the premium gap. You see, the price on TV is for a paper contract. It's basically a bet on what silver will be worth in the future. The price you pay at the shop is for the actual physical metal. And when people lose faith in the paper system, that gap can just explode.
Analysts have a word for this too, a decoupling. And it's a really powerful signal. It means that a whole lot of people have decided that a paper promise for an ounce of silver is no longer the same as having an actual ounce of silver in their hand. And they're willing to pay a lot more for that certainty.
Okay, so all this chaos, this market panic, it all brings us to the end game. What if none of this is random? One source puts forward this really big theory that connects all the dots, the inequality, the crisis at the Fed, the panic in the markets, and suggests it's all part of a calculated move to create a new world order.
So buckle up, because this is a huge idea. The theory presented is that we are witnessing a great reset, but not the one you might have heard about. This version is an American-led strategy to reclaim critical supply chains and reestablish its dominance for a new era of global competition.
And the strategy has this really interesting name, the New Arsenal of Democracy. Back in the 20th century, the arsenal of democracy was about building tanks and planes. Well, in the 21st century, according to this theory, it's about controlling the real building blocks of a modern economy: energy, technology, and all the critical minerals you need to make them work.
And the alleged plan has 3 distinct steps. First, you secure energy, maybe by controlling the massive oil reserves in Venezuela. Second, you secure technology by controlling the rare earth minerals you need for things like chips and batteries, found in places like Greenland. And third, you use that control to solidify your influence over the entire Western Hemisphere.
And the end goal of all this, the whole point? It's about creating a self-sufficient and dominant economic bloc, one that can operate and win on its own terms, without needing to rely on Europe or China. It's a vision for a new American century, built on controlling the assets that truly matter today.
And that brings us right back to where we started. All of these events, from the widening wealth gap to a crisis at the central bank to a mad dash for physical silver, are we just watching the final chaotic moments of a failing system? Or are these the messy, disruptive birth pains of a new world order? The sources lay out all the pieces, but how they all fit together, well, that's the question we're left with.